Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. You know what to do. We're live. We're in the studio, so get involved in the comments and the chat. We're going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news. We're going to be talking about some quotes from last night. Manchester United's emphatic 4-1 victory over Real Betis in the Europa League last 16 first leg. If I get that one right. So we'll chat a little bit about some of the quotes we've had come out about that. Pretty positive, as you'd expect, following a pretty solid win. And the kind of response you wanted to see following what happened at Anfield. Erik ten Hag obviously picking the same team. I like that. I'm all about that. Pick the same team. Go out there. Try and redeem yourselves somewhat. I'm not saying that all this, forgive him because we beat him Betis, but it's a step in the right direction, innit? And I think, if we can beat Southampton, then we can start putting it behind us. Right, sorry, I digress. So we're going to talk about some quotes from last night. We'll talk about some transfer rumours, obviously. Also, a little bit of an update with the takeover situation, because all these little... I don't know, it feels like it's a little bit of more of attrition, a little bit of brinksmanship, if I can use all these words, like, the Qatari's going to walk away, then a minute, then latest, there's Elliot Group are getting involved, so we'll get into all that as well. Anyway, let me go first of all. First things first, obviously. Grief he was getting post-Anfield was ridiculous. Didn't have a good game, neither did anyone else. But all this, let's ban him for 5 games because he barely touched the linesman who'd already grabbed hold of him. He wanted to come off when he didn't. All that nonsense that was going around wasn't okay. It did my head in. I stuck up for him. And I think, whether you like Bruno Fernandez or not, his record as captain, his record as a player for Manchester United is excellent. It really is. I mean, he's been a phenomenal signing. And also, Joe and his captain say, we've won a trophy and we've won more games than any other team in Europe's top 5 leagues. Post-World Cup, so it's not like it's been a disaster. Anyway, he's been getting some plaudits from his manager. You can see there, excuse me. He was the leader in making the game from the back in possession, making the rhythm of the game, good passes between the lines, and there we created a lot of chances. You can just see, there you go. It's his strength and his passion, but you're all right. Sometimes he has to control that. He has to bring it. It's his strength, and when it's too much, it becomes a weakness. That's true. He knows that, and there are always small margins. So he's acknowledging there's a little bit of Bruno's passion can get the better of him, but he's also praising him as well. And pretty solid comments there from the manager, and I think that's only fair. I mean, I don't think you can just go completely OTT and go, he's perfect, but, the things that make Bruno such a good player are his passion, his willingness to take chances, his willingness to take risks, his engine, his energy. And sometimes, he does need to channel that a little bit better, but if you lost a little bit of that edge, you might lose some of the players. So, I don't know, it's difficult, but I like Bruno Fernandez, and I think, good to see him get a goal. He got a good reception last night, as you'd expect, and when he got his goal, there was it was weird because the celebrations last night were a bit odd at the ground anyway. I know it's different from when you're watching elsewhere, but Marcus scored, everyone's cheering, as you'd expect, it's a goal. But it wasn't like, it wasn't limbs all over the gaff. It wasn't like everyone going mad when we took the lead. Then it was it Bruno or Anthony? I think it was Bruno next one. I can't remember the order. Sorry, I was there, I should know. But Bruno got a good reception, like his goal was well received, and his goal was well received. Wout Weghorst seemed to get a bigger cheer, and it felt like everyone was almost willing him to score because of what had gone on. Because he'd been battling for this goal, he'd missed a lot of chances. There was all that fallout as well from Anfield, and you can kind of respect Weghorst. You might not think he's at the levels you need, but you can respect his effort. He was absolutely putting a shift in, and you could see he was suffering because he was missing these chances. And when he got his goal, he got an absolutely rapturous reception. But his celebration, you can tell there's a guy. I think there was a lot of relief in that goal celebration, because I think it might still be going on now. It went on for a bit, and listen, if I scored a goal for United, I'd be running around Old Trafford with my shorts around my ankles for about the next 2 years. But yeah, it was one of those where it felt like, it didn't feel like a player scoring the 4th goal in the first leg of a 4-1 win over Real Betis in the Europa League. It felt a lot bigger than that, and I think that a lot of that was just some of the pressure he'd been feeling. So I was pleased for Wout Weghorst. I was pleased for him all last night. He needed that. There's a bit of argy-bargy, wasn't there, going on popping off last night, kicking off. I don't know if you could see it on the telly, but the Real Betis fans were fighting in their little corner. Bit weird because, you know, I didn't think it was that kind of game where there was going to be any aggie, but there was. You can see there, mad. Real Betis was... Man United's Europa League victory over Real Betis was marred by ugly scenes. It's not a word you hear very often, that, is it? Marred. Well, you hear in Manchester, you don't use the word marred. You use it when you're a bit younger, from someone who's been a bit soft. Look at him, he's right mad. But that's different, that's spelled different, and that's sort of spoiling something, innit? So, the victory's been marred by ugly scenes in the away end. Bit weird. And then when you came out, where I come out down the Munich tunnel. And I usually walk across the forecourt past where the away fans are coming out. And obviously, if it's someone like the Scousers or sometimes... Usually City actually get let out at the same time, but the Scousers and Leeds usually keep them in a little bit longer. They kept the Betis fans in, but what they've done is almost blocked it all off, so you had to go like right round. Like the police and the horses and everything was there, so they were obviously prepared for them when they came out. I mean, I didn't stick around. I've never been into scrapping at football, to be honest with you. But yeah, there was a few fans waiting there to give them a bit of stick, but nothing violent. So yeah, it was just a bit of a strange one. That I didn't really see it coming. Brian Casey says, so happy for Val. Not bad for a Liverpool fan. Yeah, he was getting a lot of you Scouse, you know what, chance as well when he scored. Santa Not says, argy bargy. There's a vintage phrase. Brian Casey said they should be smited for that carry on. Yes, indeed. Also, Laurie Chilton says, it's like one big word here. Tired of fans slating our players. Paddock are real fans. Thank you, brother. Listen, I'll criticise players when they play badly. I'm not, we're not MUTV. If someone's playing badly, or if I don't think there are levels you need from Manchester United Football Club, I'll say that. I'm not employed by the club. I'm allowed to give my opinion. I just don't like all this, sometimes this OTT abuse that players get. And it's quick, like, we demonise them and we jump on them for all sorts, and sometimes accuse them of things they've not done. It can go a little bit, for me personally, a little bit, each your own, but a little bit too far, and I've never been that kind of guy, to be honest with you. To talk about Frankie de Jong, we've not had a Frankie de Jong story for about 3 weeks. And first of all, Jay Frasconis in the super chat says, good morning, Jay. If Weghorst could slot in as our third striker, I'd have him on a permanent deal. His attitude and character are great. You can see he loves the club. Do you agree? Thanks, Jay. I like the kid. I feel he's a stopgap. I do. I feel there's an issue that we can't ignore about the goal scoring. I like him. I think he's done well this season. He's helped us win a trophy, and he puts a shift in, and he brings others around him. I just wonder if it's a big game, if it's your City or your Liverpool or your Chelsea or whatever, and you're looking to your striker to pop up with a goal, is he that guy? Also, one of the things I hoped when Weghorst came in was it might give, when you need to, Marcus a bit of a breather, because you can maybe play Weghorst down the middle and play Sancho and Garnacho, for example, or Anthony and Sancho, or Palestri and Sancho, or whatever, and have Marcus have a breather. I don't think you can afford to drop Marcus Rashford, ever, at the minute, because if he's not on the pitch, you worry about the goals. So, whilst I love Weghorst, I think he's a real good lad, great attitude, gets stuck in, brings in others around him, puts a shift in, and you can see what it means to him. Also, not afraid of mixing up a little bit, which I love when it kicks off and that. I just don't know long term whether he's good enough. I'll be honest with you. I'm like I said to you, I'll be honest about players. I don't get personal. I will be honest though. I'm not going to just praise players or say I think they're good enough when they're not. I think he's the ideal stopgap. I don't see him as a long-term option for Manchester United. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Do you think Weghorst should stay past this season? De Jong has been speaking about staying at Barcelona. It seems to me he always wants to stay at Barcelona. And then there's been a comment here from, I think, is this from Xavi? If I can, yeah, this is one from Xavi where he says he was very clear to me he wanted to stay with us, and there was no doubt. That's an old quote coming from his from the time when he spoke ahead of the game at Manchester United. I think there's been this other quote where he spoke to the radio station and he said there, De Jong was asked, will we be quiet this summer? Right, no. Manchester United, no Erik ten Hag. The player responded, I'm very calm, happy. I want to stay at Barcelona for many more years. Now, listen, I expect him to say that. He's not going to say, I've had enough, I don't like it here, the fans do me head in, the manager's an idiot, and the ground's a dive. Of course he's going to say those things. Does it mean he is going to stay? I don't know. I've always felt there's something in De Jong to United. I don't see why Ten Hag would have pursued him for so long if it was dead, if it wasn't happening. And I do think the fact they owed him, what was it, 17 million quid or whatever, played a part in him not walking away from that. And maybe he did have a little bit of unfinished business and he wanted to do one more season. But I wouldn't be surprised if United went for him again in the summer. And I wouldn't be surprised if we got him. I'm not saying it's definite by any stretch of the imagination. But I do feel for United to have gone in for him so often, or for so long, during the summer, and make a bid and all the rest of it, and Barca to accept it, there had to be something there. So we'll have to wait and see. Get involved in the chat and the comment. Do you want to see him? Do you think he's good enough? Do you think he'll come to Manchester United? Let's get to 200 likes, people. We're only on 45 likes, 46 likes. Come on, we can do better than that. Jamie White says, just give up on him. I like that. Lauren Rose says, I think in terms of effort... Oh, this is, sorry, on Vote Veghurst. I think in terms of effort, he deserves to be a permanent signing, but I do agree he seems like a stopgap. Santa Not says, if we get two good strikers competing for the 9 slot, Vote could stay as a third choice. His attitude suggests he could be okay with that. Yes, we have Marcus, but on the left, he's been so good. This is it, and you get 2 more strikers, you can keep that striker. I get your point. I just feel that, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just, for me, it feels a touch of the short-term option. Right, let's talk about this as a bit of a left field one. Mason Mount. United had Mason Mount to list of targets. This has originated from The Guardian. We've got it from the Manchester Evening News there. It says Manchester United have added Mason Mount to their midfield shortlist, according to The Guardian. Though a striker is United's biggest priority in the summer, it's understood Eric Ten Hag would also like to add another quality midfielder to his ranks. United have been long-time admirers of Jude Bellingham and could reignite their interest in Frankie de Jong, as already mentioned. With Harry Kane or Victor Osimhen likely to fetch a very high price, it is reported that Mount could be a cheaper alternative to Bellingham, who would also be priced in the 100 million region. Mount is in a standoff with Chelsea over a new contract with his current deal set to expire next year, so could be available on a discount. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of Mason Mount. I think he's alright. I think a couple of seasons ago he was doing really well. They won the Champions League, he was playing well, he was sort of doing well for England. I just feel he's alright. He's not a player who particularly excites me. Jude Bellingham, I'm excited by. Very young, very talented, one of the best, arguably, in the world. Gonna get better. Can play in a sort of number of positions. And, he's one of those players where you expect almost everyone to want him in the summer. All the big clubs, including Manchester United, will be looking at him. He's been linked with Liverpool. He's been linked with, I think, City. He's been linked with Real Madrid. And you can understand why. Very talented young player. Mason Mount, good player. Does he get into United's first team if he comes to Old Trafford? I'm not sure he does. I'll be honest with you. We don't know what's going to happen with Sabitzer. Eriksen comes back. I expect him to be back in the team. I think if you've got Mason Mount, I think your midfield, I know he's a bit more of a 10 in here, but I still feel you'd have Eriksen there, or even Bruno over him. I would personally. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Do you think Mason Mount is the answer to Manchester United's problems? Faisal L, where Lee says Mount is overhyped. Remy Stone says Mason Mount is Jesse Lingard level. Belvinda Rasu says Chelsea rejects no more. DK Wilson says both Mount and Havertz are vastly overrated. Christopher Sommer says morning Jay. Stuart Thomas says sorry I'm late Jay, how are you feeling buddy? I'm on the mend. Let's hit that like button. Come on people, let's get to 200 likes. We can do this. So there's over 600 people watching. We're only on 75 likes. That's not good enough. Let's get to 200 likes before we wrap up this video. I'm not going anywhere. Let's talk about other transfer targets as well. We've got 2 here. You can see this is in the mirror. So there's this lad, Daichi Kamada. This is the Eintracht Frankfurt midfielder. Bit of a surprising one. I've not seen this being linked anywhere else, although Stephen House has probably done a scouting report on it about 2 years ago. But it says here, Manchester United have been linked with the move for Eintracht Frankfurt midfielder Daichi Kamada, making Erik ten Hag's plans clear ahead of the summer transfer window. The 26-year-old Japan international is enjoying another superb season with the Bundesliga side after helping Eintracht win the Europa League last year. But Kamada is out of contract this summer, prompting interest from across the continent. Does anyone know a lot about this kid? Do you want him? Is he the one for you? I mean, I don't know a lot about him. I'm not going to pretend that I do. You can understand why United would want him. Obviously talented. If he is out of contract as well, there's the economic side to it, because it's not just about whether you've got loads of money to spend, which potentially United could have if we have new owners. There's this thing about financial fair play becoming more of a thing. Because in the past we've gone financial fair play, yeah, right, do what City did. Not an issue. But now it seems like it is becoming more of an issue, especially next season as well. We saw Chelsea putting everyone on long-term contracts as a sort of loophole. That's no longer an option, I don't think, next season. We know they're clamping down on City, even retrospectively, for perceived abuses of financial fair play. So you are going to have to monitor what you spend. If that is the case, players like Kamada on what would it be, a free transfer? If he's out of contract, would make sense. Let's wait and see what happens with that one. Get involved in the chat and the comments and let us know what you think. Do you think he would be the answer to our problems? I know he played in the World Cup, didn't he? Played against Germany in the World Cup, fitting. Let us know what you think. Do you fancy him? Do you think he's good enough? Do you think he's the one that you go for? Oh, there you go. Dale Gibson says, fairly sure Steer's done a scout report on Kamada. Of course he has. Do you know what I mean? He's done one on everyone. You can invent a player and somehow Steele have done a scouting report on him. It's just what he does. So yeah, I'll ask him about that later on. We're doing the Brews together, aren't we? So I'll ask him about this kid because I don't know a lot about him. I'm not going to pretend that I do. But in Ten Hag, we trust. I do think, though, with Ten Hag and his transfers, the club could help him a bit more as well. It just feels like Ten Hag's doing all the transfers, doesn't it? It seems like all the targets we get and everyone we signed, it's pretty much him. Maybe Casemiro was a bit more the club, but definitely Eriksen, Malacia, Martinez, Antony. They all felt like it was Ten Hag going, that's the players I want, which is good, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But you should have scouts as well who were going, look, we've found these players for you. Karl Anker made the point when he was on it. He said, you want a sort of mix. You want a manager who's able to come up with a list of targets. You want the club to have some potential targets as well that they've looked at. When you sort of, the manager and John Murtaugh or whoever sits down and goes over it. And ultimately the manager's got to have the final say if he's going to play these players, if he's going to want them. But you would feel like the club could do a bit of looking at it as well, because it does feel very sort of just everything on the manager, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because he's a very talented man and knows what he's doing, but you want him to be supported as much as he can be. There's a story there as well, you can see it there. Kane, priority Man United target. Harry Kane is a priority transfer target for Manchester United this summer, according to The Guardian as well. We should have just gone to The Guardian, really, shouldn't we? Apologies there to The Guardian. Probably Jamie Jackson. I don't even know who wrote the article, but I know he writes for The Guardian. Erik ten Hag is keen to sign a forward and has put Tottenham ace Kane at the top of the pecking order. I spoke about Harry Kane the other day. Now, I've never been Harry Kane's biggest fan, but I wouldn't be against Harry Kane signing for Manchester United. Now, I know people will go, well, I'd rather have Victor Osimhen. He's younger, he's more long-term, he's smashing it this season, there's a good chance he's going to get better and better. I'm not complaining if Victor Osimhen comes to Manchester United. I think he would be an absolute fan's favourite. The style of play he's got, the goals he scores, the fans, including myself, obviously, would love him. But if Erik ten Hag does want Harry Kane, and if we end up getting Harry Kane, I, for one, would be absolutely buzzing with that. I would. I think that'd be a good signing. Let us know what you think. I'm not saying, I don't want Osimhen. I'm just saying if, as he's being reported, Harry Kane's a priority, and we get him, I ain't going to moan. Ishtak Ahad says, Kane post-match interviews going to make me clear my silences. Ready, salted, bland guy. I mean, listen, I'm not going to defend him across the board. His interviews aren't great, but I'm not bothered about that, to be honest with you. Elliot Group, should we talk about this? Hit the like button, people. Come on. There's over 700 of you watching. Let's get to 200 likes. If you're watching, hit that like button. Brian Casey says this, Kane can be our next Van Persie. Be that player that wins us the league. I said this the other day on a video. I said on a video the other day, Harry Kane, we sign Harry Kane, we can win the league. Some people agreed, some people didn't. Let me know what you think. Obviously, not the only signing. I think we might make some new signings. There's even talk of a new goalkeeper, isn't there? It's a bit of a funny one, wasn't it, last night, the other day? I've seen some people calling out his distribution, which did feel a little bit ropey. Tim Farrow says Vlahovic. Yeah, Dusan Vlahovic. We've been linked with him from Juve for quite some time. Elliot Group. Let's talk about these guys. Elliot Group representatives at Old Trafford. Simon Stone from the BBC. I am told there were representatives of Elliot Investment Group at Old Trafford last night. Elliot used to own AC Milan, and while they are not looking to buy a stake in Manchester United, they are offering funding either through a potential part purchase or to assist with redevelopment work around the stadium and the club's Carrington training complex. We are at the start of a period of presentations with United making pitches to Sir Jim Ratcliffe's Ineos Group and Sheikh Jassim's representatives next week as the ownership situation moves on. Slightly concerns me that this could be some way, or it's viewed in some quarters as a way of the Glazers to keep ownership of Manchester United, to make these redevelopments, to make the upgrades or whatever in the stadium and in the training ground via this hedge fund, this Elliot Group, or whatever you want to call it, and still have some control or complete control of Manchester United. Don't want to see the Glazers staying. And listen, I know there's been a lot of talk and discussion and debate around who's going to take over Manchester United. And, you know, you saw it on the overlap when the likes of Maku and Joe went on there, and Laurie Whitwell was there, and Carl Anker and Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher were talking about it, and whether it's going to be Qatar or whether it's going to be Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And it's a little bit strange, isn't it? Because it's not, you know, it's Sir Jim Ratcliffe's group, it's Ineos, and also with the Sheikh Jassim. You know, he's saying he's a private citizen in Qatar. Others would say, well, you know, I think his dad's the former Prime Minister, and this obviously feels like it's a state-owned thing. So that throws up a debate as well. Now, whether you are for Sir Jim Ratcliffe, whether you are for the Qatar bid, whatever, I think one thing I've seen across the board from the vast majority of Manchester United fans is that we all want the Glazers gone. And I said this the other day, we've waited 80 long years for him to go. It looks like we're right near the end of the tunnel. There's light at the end of the tunnel where the Glazers look like they're going to leave, and I'm all for that. Now, fans may disagree on who they want to see come in as owners, but I think one thing we're all pretty much in agreement about is the fact the Glazers have been bad for Manchester United. They've saddled us with all this debt. We're still in about 515 million net debt, I think. The stadium is crumbling, it's falling apart, it needs an absolute, arguably a rebuild, if not a revamp. We've seen our rivals winning trophies constantly and challenging for titles while we've struggled on the pitch. We've wasted so much money on transfers because we've not had football people in charge of footballing decisions. We've gone through all these managers, we've gone through all these transfers with little reward post Sir Alex Ferguson. We got away with it, Sir Alex Ferguson, because he's such a managerial genius. We haven't got away with it post Sir Alex Ferguson because we've had people like Ed Woodward overseeing football matters who knows nothing about football. And you've got to look at the Glazers because of that. They've made those bad decisions. They've put us in this debt, and they've taken all these dividends. They've not invested any money in Manchester United. They've just taken money out of Manchester United and mismanaged it. And that's why we all want to see him go. You can look at what's happened. You can look at how the team, up until recently, has really fallen behind our rivals. You can look at the way the stadium and the training ground and facilities have fallen behind our rivals. You can look at some of the absolute embarrassments that have gone on under the Glazers ownership. Was it Casey Stoney, the manager of the women's team? There was talk that she left because there was no facilities, there's no toilets for the women's team at Carrington. When you want to go and watch the under-23s or the academy or the women's team, you've had to go to the Lee Sports Village. A club the size of Manchester United should have better facilities than that, and it's just not on, and it's all happened on the Glazers' watch. So we've had enough of him. We want to see him gone. And that's why you might disagree on who you want to see come in and take over, and I understand that, but I think there'll be a lot of rejoicing when the Glazers leave, and rightly so, because you've seen it with people going to starting FC United Manchester, you've seen the protests, you've seen the 1958, you've seen the people online as well who've done all their bits, and fair play to everyone, because it's been as long as I struggle. Remember the green and gold and everything that's gone on there. I've seen fans arguing over this, arguing we should do more, arguing we should take this approach, but we've always sort of been pretty much in agreement that the Glazers are bad for Manchester United. And let's not forget as well the whole Super League debacle, which they were at the centre of. So I cannot wait till they go. Just an update on this. Simon Stone just put this out recently. Representative Elliot Investment Management were at Old Trafford last night. Yeah, I've gone through all that. United have begun a series of presentations. Yep. There you go. At the bottom it says, although there was initial hope the whole process could be concluded by the end of this month, BBC Sport has been told that it's highly unlikely as the timescales are now too tight. So we ain't going to find out the new owners by the end of March, which is not massively surprising, is it? It always felt a little bit ambitious to have this all wrapped up within a month or so, whatever, from getting the bids in or getting, getting the bids into getting the new owners or getting it agreed. Yeah, with everything they've got to go through. They've got to go through all the finances, which I'm going to, I think they're going to probably need a bottle of vodka and a few packets of aspirin to go through Manchester United's financials, to be honest with you. Tobias Nilsson, welcome to the first team. I think the big thing about the Glazers, we want them all gone. And I think now as well, I've seen, there's lots of discussion about who's going to take over next. We just want sort of fans as well to be listened to. And the new owners, whoever they may be, I hope they'll have some form of dialogue with the club, because one of the things that's sort of been a massive bugbear about the Glazers, no communication ever. We had to get games postponed to get them to sort of get around the table, and even then it was, a Zoom call or something. They promised to do regular dialogue. I think they've had 2 Zoom calls with the fans forum. Not good enough. Hit that like button. We're almost at 200 likes. Come on. Erim Hammett says, hi Jay. M says, Jude diligence take 1 month, so 3 weeks always looks a bit short. Hello Jay, how's it lad? Says Liam. Wojciech Zawadski says, get Glazers out and get those 3 in the summer, then we go again. Reds, listen, hit that like button. Come on, we're almost there. We can do this. Jamie White says, you can't use leverage buyouts anymore. The law is literally named after the Glazers, isn't it? Yeah, didn't they put in some Glazer law when Chelsea was saying that you can't do leverage buyouts because we don't want that happening again? Well, that's nice, isn't it? It's a shame you didn't have that attitude in 2005 when the Glazers bought Manchester United with a leverage buyout and ploughed the club into all this debt that was still in. And now the new owners, supposedly, are going to have to take on. Anaru Matai says, great to catch some Man United news live. Ed says, every day I'm praying for their departure. This is it. It's been 18 long years. And listen, like I keep saying, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's true. You can have a debate on who the next owner is going to be and who you want and all that, and I get it. But yeah, the day the Glazers leave will be a good day for Manchester United, because I think they've just been absolutely shambolic. O'Hanlon, 86, says, who's been a member of the first team for 3 months, says, Mason Mount is a Tory. Pass it on. Top man, Jay. I think I've called him a Tory. I think I might have said that. So when he kicked off with Lisandro Martinez at Stamford Bridge, yeah, and Luke Shaw had to go and basically save Mason Mount's life because Martinez was about to volley him into row Z. Seriously. Manish Bandari says, Jay, can't Qatar buy out Glazers siblings and public share to force the move? I don't know. You'd think so. Who knows what's going to happen? Listen, we've got 200 likes. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. We're going to be back later on with the preview for the Southampton game. And also we'll have the brew with myself, Stephen Howson, and Ryan Oppo is joining us as well. So I'm going to be surrounded by Droylsden today, but I don't mind it. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.